Daniel Jones took a lot of criticism last night for his not very good performance, quite frankly, and obviously the fact that he's coming off of getting paid $40 million a year. There's a lot of talk about, is he worth the contract? The answer is no. Also, people are kind of bringing up, well, maybe it's not fully fair to blame it all on Daniel Jones. Well, yes, maybe the contract is an overpay. Is it fair to fully crush him for the Seahawks' performance? Well, I'm mostly going to talk about numbers here. I'm not going to show a ton of film in this one, so, if that's not your thing, apologies, but I think it's important to do when we're talking about this. First, I want to start off with this. This is in my analytical power rankings. You see that right here. I did this at the end of last year. The Giants ended up ranking 29th in my overall analytical power rankings. Now, this is not an exact science, obviously. Like, for example, Jacksonville ended up being just 25th. I probably would have had them higher last year than just that. But, I think it's a good stepping stone. And again, Jacksonville was weird because they, didn't really hit their stride until halfway through the season. So, bit of an anomaly there. They were better as the season went on. Other than that, though, most of these teams make sense why they're here. The Giants are kind of a real big exception at 27. And again, you look at the win total, they were projected for under 5 wins in terms of how they performed. And again, a lot of data that goes into this, but I think most people would also agree if you watch the games, it didn't feel like this team was overly talented. They were just finding ways to win football games. So, okay, what do you make of that? In my opinion, maybe you say, hey, it's really good coaching. You have a good coaching staff, but you should also still be looking to add talent and not go too crazy about how talented you were last year and think that you can build off of it. And if you improve a couple more pieces, you can go on a deep playoff run. To me, if I was running the Giants last year, I would have said, hey, that was awesome. Fun season. We made the playoffs. That's always cool. But, we're still not there yet. We're still, that's kind of a bit of a fluke. Let's not just assume that we are that good. Let's still treat this as though it's a rebuilding year. Instead, of course, as we know, they would go on to pay Daniel Jones. Well, was it a smart move to pay Daniel Jones? Let's talk about why it wasn't. So first, we're going to start off looking at this chart. This is going to be Daniel Jones's Pro Football Focus page for since he was a free agent. They do this for all free agents. So, you can look up players in the past if they've been free agents, if you're interested in this kind of data. And, one thing I want to, start off with, and I think it's a fair point to bring up, Daniel Jones is not a bad quarterback. Like, he's really not. And this is something I've kind of been defending him for a few years now. If you go back a ways, there was a point when I was actually a Daniel Jones defender because I always felt like he got too much criticism before he was getting paid because he was kind of just a okay-ish quarterback. You see all the way towards the right, PFF had him ranked as the 17th best quarterback last year with a 2.15 PFF WAR. That's solid numbers. You'll take that, especially for a guy under a rookie deal. You feel pretty good about that. So if you think that this video is going to be they paid a bad quarterback big money and that's why this is a bad idea, no, that is not how I feel. I think Daniel Jones is a quality quarterback and he does help a football team win a game in a vacuum, albeit this year has certainly not been his best year. The average team spends $26 million per win, given the salary cap, and each team, on average wins 8.5 games, so $26 million per win. That's what you typically expect. And Daniel Jones' contract is $18.6 million per win. So, it's a good contract then, right? Because it's better and it's, better than what the average team does. In a sense, yes. In a sense, having Daniel Jones play football is better than having just your backup play football and not paying any quarterback. For one season, that would be the better outcome. Also, I forgot to capitalize the J in Jones, my bad there. But anyways, moving on. You talk about, okay, well, if Daniel Jones' contract is $18.6 million per win, isn't that a good thing? Well, the issue is that, and this is going to be a surprise to some of the people that don't pay as much attention to analytics as I do, quarterbacks are severely underpaid. Basically, a ton of quarterbacks, I'm not going to say every, but a ton of quarterbacks end up with a contract that is better than what the average team spends per win. For example, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he has a bigger contract than Daniel Jones, as we all know, but his is only around $10 million per win. That doesn't seem like a ton, but it actually is a ton of, difference, I think. The way to view it is that for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Giants, they're basically now around the same amount of money, around $180 million to spend. But for the Giants, they only have 2 wins on the table. If they want to win 12 games to be a championship contender, they have to pick up another 10 wins in that scenario. The Chiefs only have to pick up around 8 wins, and they have the same amount of money to do so. That's a massive jump, and it's really more than 8 wins. I would say probably about 7.5, sometimes around 7 wins, given how valuable Mahomes is. Also, Baker Mayfield's contract, he's only getting $4 million, so his contract would be around $1.9 million per win. Mahomes and Mayfield's a bit of estimates, whereas Daniel Jones is more of a exact. There's more data behind it, but for someone like Baker Mayfield, that's another thing to point out, is you can go the other way of hope you can get a good quality quarterback who you're not paying much. Another way to do this, of course, is getting a quarterback on their rookie deal. Well, now you're in a situation where they basically have, they still have to get those 10 wins elsewhere to try and, be a championship contender if that's their goal, but they have more money to do it. They have around, the $220 million to do it, whereas the Giants have $40 million less to make that happen. The reality is, in football, you only get one chance to get a massive contract that helps your team, like the quarterback position. Like, you only get one chance at that. And for Daniel Jones, you're basically putting the Giants in a situation where they have to overcome 2.5 wins if they're going to compete with a team like Kansas City, which is the goal. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. Like, those are the teams you're competing against. And also, one more point. I know people will bring up the whole, well, the salary cap isn't real, all of that stuff. Well, that's kind of true. You definitely can. The salary cap does not do what it was intended to do 100%. At the same time, teams do basically have, you have a amount of money that you're going to spend. You're not just going to spend $1 billion on players one year. The owners are only going to give so much money to the general managers to then go out and spend, and that money tends to be actually pretty equal across the board. So it's about $10 million more than the salary cap, so that could adjust the numbers a little bit, but as a whole, it's the same idea. And also going over to this play that I said I was going to show some film, not showing a ton, because I think we get it. Like, Jones has had a bad year this year. Like, that's the other aspect. This pick six was not good. You have a receiver just trying to get into a gap in coverage underneath here on 2nd and goal. But Jones takes a snap, and quite frankly, he's going to throw without really looking. I mean, Witherspoon is there. Like, you got to pay more attention to that. It almost feels like he caught it. It just threw it over there immediately, almost like it's like a fade route or something where you'll do that. But it's not. It's a play where you're supposed to look at the defense and see if there's an opening. Good play by Witherspoon. He steps in front and gets the interception. One other thing I should probably talk about is Daniel Jones did have some numbers that kind of concerned me last year and maybe made me think perhaps he is more of a system quarterback. Specifically, basically, half of his throws were going under 10 yards. He was not pushing the ball down the field at all. He was the only person who threw the ball 20 yards down the field less often than Daniel Jones was Matt Ryan last season among eligible players. Daniel Jones had the third most highest percentage of throws with under 10 yards, threw a lot behind the line of scrimmage as well. Again, that was part of that was by necessity. Giants' offensive line sucks. And again, that has to be mentioned, is like Daniel Jones is in a bad situation. Jones is going to get all the criticism here, and it's really not his fault. I mean, what's Daniel Jones supposed to do? Not sign $40 million contracts a year? Like, no, Daniel Jones did the right thing. Signed that contract, and he's not a terrible player. Once this contract is done and he goes somewhere else, he could have a Baker Mayfield-like season, perhaps, where he gets paid a lot less and is able to play solid. However, it's more of a lesson, I think, in getting the wrong takeaway from what actually happened last year. The Giants thought that they were Super Bowl, maybe not Super Bowl contenders, but at least contenders. They thought that, like, hey, we're a playoff team, we belong here, even though the evidence suggested that they were more lucky to do that. They could have even gone with a half measure, doing something like just franchise tagging Daniel Jones as opposed to, signing him long term. The franchise tag is kind of invented for these types of scenarios, in which case, while you'd still be in this tough situation this year, you at least would be out of it after this year. For Daniel Jones's contract, here's how it works, where, if they wanted to cut him this year, it's basically impossible. There'd be 81 million in dead cap, and next year it's basically impossible. There'd be 69 million in dead cap. So he's getting that cap hit of 47 million in 2024. It's worth mentioning a cap hit of just 15 million this year. So, for all that data and stuff, it's actually not a terrible contract this season. It's more so just the long-term bad idea with Daniel Jones. Although, again, one thing that I mentioned, a lot of times it's the actual cash that matters here, not the salary cap hit itself. So, they're not spending cash elsewhere because they're paying Daniel Jones this season. So cap hits can be a bit misleading. I like to use actual cash that he's getting, which is, definitely, around that 40 million because of the signing bonus this year. But anyway, after 2025, that's when they can get rid of him, or after 2024, before 2025, they're still going to be ending up giving him 22 million that year, though. So that's still not, like, there's an out there at least, but it's not a great out. I mean, you're basically stuck, dealing with this contract for the next 3 seasons at the very least if you're the New York Giants. And obviously, you kind of have to, do it at that point, unless you're going to give him 58 million in 2026, or you could restructure something like that. Wouldn't be shocked if after 2 years, if you can still play solid football, you're going to see a restructure. I think that is possible. But this is just why it doesn't make sense, why they should have, if this is the contract he wanted, you have to let him walk. Yes, the fans would be mad, but the fans are more mad now, in my opinion. The fans are going to be mad either way if you make a bad decision. So, you might as well make the right decision that hopefully only has fans mad at you until it starts to work out. And also, I don't know, Daniel Jones can turn it around. At this point, he's 26. I'm not expecting him to, turn into a superstar player or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think he could turn back to last season Daniel Jones instead of being this year Daniel Jones, which has really been rough with the exception of a half of football against Arizona. And while the Giants have a ton of other issues that, definitely deserve to be talked about, the main reason why they're in this mess is because of the Daniel Jones contract. Make no mistake about that, in my opinion. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.